Our communities are rich in art and culture, thanks in part to our local arts organizations. Marion Culture Alliance, Arts Council of Alachua County, and GFAA Gainesville Fine Arts Association have partnered with WUFT to bring you WUFT's Artistry in Motion. And immense gratitude and thanks to our funder and sponsor, PNC Bank, who with their support, WUFT's Artistry in Motion is made possible.
I've been singing off and on for several decades. I started to learn to sing when I was in my mid-20s. I had a dreadful case of tone deficit that I had to overcome, which I did. I started off as a guitar player. When you actually can't hear the oscillations and you can't hear the pitch, it's like, well, how do you hear it? I wasn't even able to tune my guitar. My teacher thought I should study some theory. He just sat down with me one day and he had me listen to the oscillations of the pitch until I learned to get in it. And then it was just a lot of diligent practice. And as a result, then I taught You Too Can Sing through Santa Fe College for like 20 years. And it was effective because of my history. It was believable to the students that you could learn to sing because I had taught myself. I have got to play with really exceptional musicians. It's afforded me more opportunity to grow as an artist. Though I was a late bloomer, I'm now, these many decades later, feel like I'm just starting to bloom. There's a lot of joy in it, staying connected to community, keeping my brain active as the years go on. I have a singer as a mentor who is still performing at 95, so I hold that out as hope. Right now, I have a steady gig at Baby J's Bar downtown. I've had the great fortune of playing with Rafael Abdallah. We do a lot of bass and voice. Not only is he a fantastic musician and composer, he's also very generous. That makes all the difference in the world. We can easily get into the gap and not see the gain that we've made. I would say definitely follow your dream. Don't let anyone discourage you.
Outside in nature, it's where I find peace and it's where I find my inspiration. That's what my work is really about, is the drama of light on the landscape and in the sky. I used to paint as a kid. I painted wildlife, and then I didn't paint for a long time, and I came into photography, and I used large format wooden field cameras. Even as a photographer, I always felt that I should be doing more, and it was painting, being able to invent scenes. As a photographer, you have to make the best of what you've got in front of you in a traditional sense. But as a painter, I can take what's in front of you and I can bring things from the river bend over there and pull it in here, and those palms from over there and bring it here, and I can take midday and turn it into moonrise. With the large format camera, it's a very slow, contemplative process, as is painting. When you look through the back of the camera, there are no mirrors to flip things around to make it look like what you're looking at. So when you're looking through the back of that camera, it's upside down and flipped. So it really has helped me with composition, because you can look at that scene and you can see it in terms of not necessarily a tree or a mountain or an entire scene. You're looking at it in terms of shapes. So it was, I won't say an easy transition, but it was a natural transition. Even though most of my paintings are done in the studio, the process begins outside, whether it's just walking with a camera and observing, walking with my sketch pad. I watch the leaves and I watch the seasons and I watch the sky, the light and the trees. And then once I'm in the studio, then I can take all of the references, whether they're photographs or the sketches, and from that's what I create the big pieces. I could paint a building if I had to. I could paint still life, but I really have no desire to. I like being outside and painting. It's what I love. I think everyone has some connection to nature and to their environment. The paintings really put them in touch with that.
I love being able to paint with glass and using different found objects to create my mosaics. I've used leather and jewelry and found pieces, and that has been just a whole nother way of expressing myself. I worked with the Repurpose Project. I learned how important it is to not waste things. So found objects, instead of, discarding them, I try to find ways to turn it into a piece of art. I love doing abstracts, and I love painting glass to create my mosaics. I also love doing faces. I tend to use a piece of jewelry to accent their ears, or using jewelry to do the eyes. I also designed furniture pieces using mosaics. That has been something that I'm leaning more towards. I've always been a creative. I ended up working in a pottery studio of all places. Got into that, and then the owner of the pottery studio said, "I need you to learn mosaics." And I was like, "What the hell is mosaics?" So I then got into learning how to cut glass to start creating mosaics. And so now I can actually say I'm pretty good at it. I teach mosaics. Sometimes when people ask me, "Oh, am I going to cut my finger?" And I'm like, yeah, because we are working with glass. But give yourself grace. Be very forgiving, because as you're learning, you're going to grow. There is no real mistake. Someone's always going to see the beauty in what you do. What inspires me is just the possibilities. So I may take something that someone will see, that should be trash. I'm like, wait, we can put some legs on it, paint it, mosaic it, and then we've created a whole nother piece.
The planet needs help. One powerful way to help the planet is to present both its challenges and its possibilities through art. I see painting and drawing as a form of research. I think that comes from my architectural training. As a result, I think of drawing as a form of thinking. When I'm drawing, I'm thinking, why is this here and why does this work this way? Look at this in relationship to this. It's through the act of drawing and painting that I learn things. In my life as an architect, I focused a lot on sustainability, and that has to do with the connection between ecology, economy, and social equity. It's important that we all recognize that people and the planet are an equal part of the responsibility that we have. We have to think about the folks who live here and the planet, and how we can engage all the practices that everyone on the planet has that are working to make a better world. The question that I've had throughout my life is the same. I'm interested in the relationship between the flow of energy, human flows in motion, the flow of water across a landscape, people through a building, and then the containers for those flows. Pathways through a landscape, the form of a building, even the flow of energy as a tree grows. All of those are energy that gets sort of frozen into form. In my work, I explore how people have inhabited the landscape. When I do walking practices and then import those through the use of GIS into a digital form and then into a painting, I see the relationship between where we walk and what the topography of the earth looks like. That explains how people have settled where they've settled, and really how animals live where they live as well. Just seeing that connection firsthand through my own walks and then through my own hand as I'm drawing has affirmed things that I thought I knew, and it's taught me new things about different landscapes and just about that relationship between our feet and the land.
I continually look for ways that I can influence the world and motivate the world to look into themselves and look at their brothers and sisters all around the world. I'm interested in communicating the full experience of humanity through my photography. And I believe photography is uniquely qualified to do this, because when people look at photographs, a lot of times they see themselves. And if you can go to the darkest corners of the world and still have people looking at your images that show the viewer a little bit of themselves, you're making bridges and showing the diversity of the planet. I became a diplomat with U.S. State Department, so my fine arts photography took the back seat. When I retired from the State Department 2 years ago, I started again. It was almost like starting anew, and I resuscitated 3 of my series, which is The Human Pulse and Walls and Spaces and Ghost Riders. I love photography because initially I was very shy. I grew up with a lot of issues socially. I had a lisp. I was kept behind in 6th grade. Photography allows me to break out of my shell. And so as a youngster, it was a unique opportunity for me to learn how to be with people and to communicate with them and to show them not necessarily in their best light, but in their honest light. The most exciting point of photography is when I get out to a location and I'm thinking of all the variables, the lighting, the positioning of people, what the serendipity is going to be, the movement of people and animals, and I see the magic of everything coming into place. I have a feeling that there is a photograph out there. It's a sense of predestination. And when I click that picture, I really feel gratified.
Painting is my love, but I always played with different mediums. I had a line of clothing, I made jewelry, I made puppets, then I taught puppet making. I use any materials that I can, even on my canvas at times. With pottery, what I liked was the different medium of glazing and painting on the pottery. The way light hits a color and the ever-changing motion and emotion that it evokes that you can do with paint. I love it. I believe that creating something beautiful is the best use of my time. That's where my inspiration comes from. We all relate very well to beauty, but we're so busy and often numb to it. And so if I see something beautiful, I want to capture it. That's why I photograph it, because at that moment I can't paint it. Then I go to my studio and start working from the photograph. Not always. Sometimes it's an abstract or something else that comes from different inspiration. It always evolves into something else, because I'm not there to copy the view that I saw. I just want to connect to that emotion that it evoked in me when I saw something beautiful. So that's what I do. I first photograph it, then I go to the photograph, manipulate it, blur it or zoom into it, undress it and abstract it, set it aside and paint from it. If you can see it, you can paint it. You need to observe what it is you're looking at. It's not about copying what you've seen, it's about extracting what it is you've seen. The way the light hits a color, it could be a shape, it could be a size. 70% observing, 30% painting. The painting changes many times. It presents a set of problem solving, which is very intense, but I like it. It evolves until the painting says, I'm here.
I take old suitcases, trunks, mailboxes, lunch boxes, you name it, and I build things inside. I add my own painting or drawing as well as objects and create an environment. I went on a trip and I came back and my little suitcase had split open, tore it apart and opened it up and made my very first suitcase piece. It is a waiting game in some ways. I can't really force my projects because when I do, I don't feel so good about them. I really enjoy the slow cooking method. Some of them, once in a while, they just fall right into place and get a good vision of what I want and it starts rolling and it's great, you know, when they work out that way. And the long ones are good too. They just take a lot of time, more patience, and a little willingness to wait for the muse to alight on my brain. Everybody has a different perception or perspective or desire, a past event. There's something that clicks in their mind, and so I'm really interested in what they have to say about the artwork, because people will tell me things that I never had a clue about that I put in a piece that really rang and resonated for them. So that's really fun to me, as well as, they'll ask me, why in the world did you do that? And I'll say, well, that's what it felt like at the time. Making art has definitely been a challenge because I wasn't allowed to as a kid, and I was real shy and scared about that. And over time, I decided, I guess when I was in high school or something, I decided that I would just do it my way, whether it was right or wrong. So it's really embellished my existence and my willingness to try different things and fail. It's a never-ending pursuit. I don't think anybody gets to the pinnacle and then quits. I think it's always an uphill climb, and we're always working on it.
Music as an art form is just really good for the soul. Learning the art, learning the craft, there's things that go into, as an artist, you're learning how to interpret notes. The way you play a note, like a G in classical music, is going to be different the way you play a G in jazz. It's just what comes before it, what comes after it determines your style. I started doing band in 6th grade, 1988, which is insane to say that. Did it in high school and whatnot, and I knew I wanted to do something with music. And so when I got to college, I said, oh no, you have these choices now. So you play your horn, and you have jazz or the classical route. I am the director of the Gainesville Big Band. We are an 18-piece big band that has been based here in Gainesville, Florida since 2007. The big band was the soundtrack to a Saturday night. When you first start playing jazz, typically that's your first experience to it, is a big band format. You don't quite understand it just yet, but then you're starting to have to break down who is Count Basie and who is Duke Ellington. And then once you start understanding all those things, you start getting more and more into what big band truly is. I've said this before, it's like when you have the band kicking and swinging, they're just popping the notes. It's great. It's like the best feeling in the world. Directing has been interesting because you start learning how to deal with different personalities. It's been great to work with a lot of people that I consider my friends, and as well as just general colleagues. When you know how everything's supposed to be and everything is clicking, so to speak, and the audience is into it and the band is into it, it's just like, it's one of the best feelings ever.
To take a dresser or a piano and take it apart and then reassemble, recut, make a shape that's going to be something else and a work of art. It gives that wood new life. I always thought I would be a painter, and I am a painter. I went to art school, but I didn't feel like it was a right fit. So I went to trade school and became a cabinet maker. I can do the woodworking and do the art, but I have never really figured out till recently how to put the two together. Now I'm building my own shadow box frames for my paintings. It essentially gives me a chance to use both sides of my brain, measuring and cutting on one side and then being very fluid and colorful on the other side. They just kind of develop on their own. I make the painting. A lot of times that's first. Going to a special location, painting, enjoying the environment, and then somebody will call me and say, I have this piece of furniture, do you want it? And I discover that this broken piece of furniture might be solid maple in certain places, or mahogany. I try to pair the colors of the wood and the hardware that goes with it into the colors of the painting. It's whatever I have on my desk or in my shed that just looks like it matches. The wood that I'm using has had a past life. It has been a piece of furniture, or it has been a violin, or it's been a piano. They choose musical wood for its tonal qualities. So that wood is special wood. It's had music going through it all of its life. So when I pair it with a painting of a tree, I feel like the tree is an example of praise. There's so much in our world now that isn't real. To have something that is real and full of life and history, there's something very valuable in that. I'm always excited about the hunt to find materials to work with, or the hunt to represent the beauty that we have here in Florida. It's breathtaking, and some of it is disappearing. So if I can capture some of that for future generations, I feel like I've done a good job.
I've always had a hand in so many different things. Sewing is something I started at an early age as my performance career developed. Costume construction started developing along with that. I started dance in my teens. I was an athlete and I really was looking for increased flexibility. I started taking ballet and I just got so excited about a workout that was much more fun than running. Between 2005 and 2008, I started training circus arts. I've always been interested in things that were really intense and used your whole body. Aerial dancing takes it to a next level. You get to try new things, explore, and build interesting and intimate relationships with the people that you're working with. Sometimes you might only work with someone on one project that lasts a couple weeks, or you might be working with the same group of people for many years. When you find people that you click with, that you can create with, it's really wonderful. As I was doing my graduate research, there was no place to continue my work with circus arts. Upon graduation, it seemed that my life path was really to establish the Gainesville Circus Center. Aerial acrobatics, aerial silks, trapeze, juggling, clowning, stilt walking, Russian teeterboard. There's all these different circus skills that people practice and perform. I really love teaching. It's such an honor to be able to inspire people to see things in themselves that they might not see, and to help people find the way to the joy and the sense of accomplishment that I feel when I'm doing these things. The noise in your head gets quiet. You can just have this Zen experience dancing. It is frustrating at times. The acrobatic aspect is very difficult. It's often very uncomfortable, but you get to set goals for yourself and do something that one day you thought was impossible.
I make mostly large installations. I'll work at a piece until it starts to feel self-aware. A lot of my pieces have some sort of political undertone, and I feel the dissonance between the fun I'm having and the message that it has. That gives it a feeling that it has its own life and its own purpose. I like temporary large installations. They only exist when they're up, and then when they're not up, they don't exist anymore. Creating art is just so much fun. Being able to work with other artists who are of the same mindset it's just fun. It keeps you going. It keeps you connected with how things are working and what people are doing. I moved to Gainesville from Chicago about 2 years ago. I found a really great, supportive art community at the Gainesville Fine Arts Association, which I think has become my Gainesville art home. And they've been really, really great. It's just really super fun for me. I do a lot of shopping at the Repurpose Project here in town, and I'll just go through the salvage yard and I just start to collect pieces that I like, big pieces of netting, rusty metal. Sooner or later I'll pull them out and put them together in a work. It's mostly recycled objects. Some of it's new, some of it's not, and then it's a lot of paint and fabric. I put pieces together that look like they should go together. The work kind of calls to me. I follow where it takes me. And I don't know at first what it's going to be about. When a piece is really starting to work and really starting to gel, it's a total high. You really do go into a zone. Time stops, the world sort of slips away. Hours go by, you don't realize it because you're just working. It's really being present in the moment. And I think that's what art is all about. It's being present in the moment, in the world you live in the world everybody lives in.
If you start a poem and you know where you're going, it never works. It's always dead, because you have to let the sound of the words, the form of the words, you have to let that lead you into the right discoveries that need to be made. Burrowing owl. Very odd, this little cloud in trousers, in the sandy fortress favored by prairie dog and gopher tortoise. On the mound at the mouth hole, he scouts around with sibylline yellow eyes, and then, owl-wise, decides to clean house. He dives down, and soon great clouds of smudge come flying out, his home now clean as a bone. I can write prose, I've written essays, and I hate it. It's no fun. Poetry is so much fun. You've got all these wonderful tools, you've got all the sonic tools, the rhyme and alliteration and this and that, but you also play with form. I love form. I'm a formalist. Form inspires my writing. In fact, it creates it in a way. Having to meet the challenges of form is really fun. I developed a form that was very pleasing to me, and it's the long, skinny line. There may be one word on a line, there may be two, there may be three or four, but the rigor of writing in that tiny, enclosed space makes you listen more carefully to the sound that you're putting together. A diurnal owl, he's upside down and inside out, at ease not in trees, but underground, where his mate broods on her 8 fragile moons in an immaculate burrow whose contours are lined with cow manure. I am a musician, so I'm musically inclined, so the music of the words is very important to me. And when you have just this little bit of space, you hear the words more clearly as they work together.
I was doing a lot of painting when I was little until I decided to do science. So now I'm an assistant professor doing research on immunology. On the side, I've taken a master's degree in painting. It's a balance between a scientific career and art. I do paintings with ink and mineral color on the rice paper. That's a traditional material to do art back in China. It's something very natural, and it has very special texture because it's very absorbance, so the painting becomes very spontaneous. It's partially created by myself and also partially created by the material. For most rice paper painting, we use a lot of brush. The big ones are the size, and the small ones are smaller than your pinky finger. Big part of it is to control the perfect stroke and perfect water balance with your ink and your pigment so that it works for you. Polishing the technique and looking for inspiration is like look deep into your own soul and look for what you want to say and what do you feel about life. My dad is a sculptor, so this 3D art is a big part of the inspiration for what I'm doing. Part of my topic is animals. Other than observing the real animal, I like to look at sculptures and get inspiration from ancient sculptures. Painting make me forget about all the problems in the real life and really brings peace to my life, and I hope the viewers of my artwork will find peace in their mind too.